Good morning, legends. Welcome back to Here's Rodder's Reviews. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart. Now, happy Saturday. I took a little break last night from Masters of Universe Revelation. I just got to the point where I was just too tired to keep going. I wanted to do the reviews after each episode instead of going through the entire series and then going back and starting them. So we're at it this morning again, and please forgive any sounds that you're going to hear in the background of this video. The neighbours across the street from the office here have decided that they're going to widen the entrance to their house, so they've been ripping down walls and cutting out chunks of ground and everything. They've got diggers going all morning. The noise has been insane, but it has calmed down a little bit now. But you're probably going to hear a lot of crap in the background between that and traffic going past, so please forgive that. We're in the episode 3 of Revelation here, and it's titled the most dangerous man in Eternia. Is that the title? Let me just double check that I get the title right in this one. The most dangerous man in Eternia, and this refers to Duncan, Man at Arms. As we know, at the end of the last episode, Tila and everyone were setting off on their new quest to find the two pieces of the power sword, get them put back together, and they needed him to fix the sword. So at the beginning of this episode we get a look at Duncan and where he's at today, and we also get another flashback to a confrontation between He-Man and Skeletor back in the day before everything transpired in episode 1. Great little episode. We see a lot more of Merman in this one, and he's great in this episode. But the heroes, Tila, Andra, Evelyn, it's kind of weird to be calling her a hero in this episode, but or in this series, but it is what it is. As I did say, I do enjoy the episodes where the heroes and villains are forced to work together for a common goal. So I'm really enjoying this series up to this point. Now, I did say, listen to the noise out there. Isn't that insane? Like, they're absolutely tearing the whole town to shreds out there. Let me just get closer to the mic and try and cut these boys out as best I can. Yes, where was I? In the last episode I was talking about the confrontation at Skull Mountain, and I thought Trapjaw perhaps got killed in that episode. But no, he turns up in this one again, along with Triclops and the Techno cult. They turn up to attack the village that Man at Arms is now living in. And this is just as Tila and everyone turns up. This is the first time Tila and Man at Arms meet each other. I should say Duncan, Man at Arms, is like the rank, the position they run at the palace. But this is the first time they see each other since Tila turned her back on the royal family and left the palace. Duncan fights off the attacking cult as best he can with the help of Tila, Andra and Evelyn, and the cult managed to actually get them tangled up in these cords at one point, and then another person joins the rescue attempt, which turns out to be Beastman. He's on the side of Evelyn in this episode, and he's like, if you make an enemy out of her, you make an enemy out of me. So Beastman is now on the side of the good guys as well, and he kicks everyone's ass and sends them packing. And there is a fountain in this town where Duncan was going to collect water, and it's enchanted water. As we know in the series, the magic has gone from Eternia. The whole planet is starting to starve and die, and as it dies, it's going to take the entire universe with it. Without Eternia, nothing can survive. So there's little pockets of magical energy about the world, and one of these is this little fountain, and Duncan was collecting enchanted water from it. And when he meets Tila, he gets down on his knees and he begs for her forgiveness and a second chance. My son and my moon. That sort of stuff. Like this is his daughter then and day, not his flesh and blood daughter, but his adopted daughter, and he brought her up from a very small infant. So the fact that she's back and he's getting another chance with her, it's just, Duncan is a man of honour at the core, and he has got absolutely no problem in a position like this here to actually get down on his knee, take her by the hand, and just tell her how he feels. But they explain that they need him to put the power sword back together, and he's like, is that all? Do you not remember if I even weld two pieces of metal together I could get executed for it? And he says, I can't go because I'll lose something very important. I'll lose a friend. And I was like, okay, right. I heard a few rumours about this series and episode 3, and this is one that I was starting into with a little bit of I wonder what's going to happen here. I've got an idea. One of these little rumours that slipped through the cracks with me, and the rumour is fairly true, and I've got an idea after watching this episode how this series is, not the entire series, it's split in half. We've only got the first 5 episodes at this point, and there's going to be a massive cliffhanger at the end of episode 5, and I have got an insane feeling it's got something to do with Orko. As I say, as I'm recording this episode, I haven't seen past episode 3 at this point, but we get to see Orko in this episode, and he's aged as well, and he's essentially dying at this point, and Man-at-Arms collecting this enchanted water, he's been using that to feed Orko and keep him alive, basically. Orko's from another universe, basically, and everybody, Evelyn says it in this film, everybody that's magical is getting hit the hardest, like horror, and little Orko would be hit the hardest. So he's, first time we see him, he's essentially almost in his deathbed, you may as well say, and there's some beautiful moments between him and Tila in this episode where they're talking about Prince Adam and He-Man and the old days, and he still misses Adam, and he starts to cry, and me as a 42-year-old man sitting watching this film last night, there's a tear rolling down my cheek seeing Orko going over this stuff. They're doing their hardest, their damnedest to make to redeem Orko in a way. As it did say, and I think it was the last review, Orko was that character that most people loved, but there was like a 50-50 balance between people that really loved Orko and people that just detested the sight of him. They thought he was the worst part of the show, and they're doing their hardest to really redeem Orko in this episode. But it did also say, when you're a small child like me watching He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the character of Orko was the one that pulled you in to the universe. He was the gateway for the small child, and there was just something about seeing that character in that condition last night that just really hit home for me. And I'm pretty sure, I have got no problems in saying that I will bawl like a small child watching a movie or a TV show. Happens all the time. I don't care. You can think less of me if you want for that, but it's just the way it is. Do you remember those old, was it the Nokia advertisements? Used to be on TV here in the UK, probably in America as well, but in the UK, whenever smartphones was first coming out, there was a little Nokia phone that had this little animated phone with a little face on the screen and 2 arms and the legs, and this thing was, like put out onto the street, and you seen the owners with their new phones, and they were going through it in this little sad phone in the background. I would well up at that sort of shit, so it is what it is, guys. Anyway, we get to meet Roboto in this episode. Is that his name? I want to say Roboto. there's a lot. If you know Kevin Smith stuff, there's quite a few people pop up as voice actors in this show that have done other things for him. Roboto, yeah, Justin Long does the voice for him, and he's been in a few of Smith's movies in the background as well. And Duncan says, man of honour, he can't leave this new family he has. There's Roboto, and there's Orko, and he's got a whole new situation, and he's, he can't turn his back on this family. Like, he was thrown out of the palace, he's got no rank, anything like that there. But Roboto pops up, and he was built by the younger version of Duncan, so his memory circuits and everything that he is based off of what Man-at-Arms used to be as a young man. So the fact that Man-at-Arms could put the power sword back together also means Roboto can do it. So Roboto says, like, if you can't go, I'll go. And Tila asks Duncan to go to Castle Grayskull to protect the sorceress, because he only has Cringer to look out for. And Orko asks to go on the journey as well, but Tila is like, you're in no condition for this. You should sit this one out, little guy. It's going to be too dangerous. And Orko's like, I won't let you down like the old days, Tila. I'll be good. And like, I'm starting to well up now, just going over some of the lines that Orko said in that show last night, because it was just brilliant. Love or hate Kevin Smith, most of his writing is fantastic on an emotional level. Whenever he gets deep into something like this here, it is, it's never going to be Oscar winning stuff, but it's very, very touching stuff. And now that he's into the family friendlier sort of stuff, it's even more touching. If you want to see a movie of his that has a fairly touching story to it, go back and check out Chasing Amy, the second movie he ever made. It's fantastic. It's if you're easily offended, it's not going to be for you, but it is definitely well worth watching. So they split up, head off on their separate journeys. They're on the Crystal Sea, and we have a moment between Tila and Evelyn, and they're going over aspects of their past. I'll not go too deep into that there, but there's good character building in here, so there's a lot of talking backwards and forth, not so much in the action in this episode, but the character stuff is amazing in this episode. We're getting a hell of a lot more depth to Evelyn as well. I'm really starting to love her as a character in this series. And they get attacked by Merman and his cronies, and there's a whole back and forth between him and Evelyn, and he feels betrayed by her because after Skeletor was killed, Evelyn and him could have been the Masters of the Universe. They could have took over Eternia and ruled together, shoulder to shoulder sort of a deal. So the heroes are beaten down at this point, but then Roboto sees in the distance this figure coming, and it's Duncan, Man-at-Arms, has decided to come help them before he goes to the sorceress. And he gets on the boat with his he was always the mad inventor of He-Man and the Master of the Universe. If there's any gadgets needed designed or built, he was the guy to do it, and some of the stuff that he came up with was amazing. And like, he turns up in this episode and like, he kicks ass in a big bad way. That's great. And they force the merman to take the boat to the entrance to Eternia. The boat that they're on has been disabled by the first attack, so it's stranded in the water, can't go any further, but he's got command of the waves, so he's forced to use his power to take the boat to the entrance to Eternia. And Tila and Man-at-Arms have a great moment where, as they're about to leave, Man-at-Arms puts out his hand in friendship, and she jumps on him, massive hug. Listen to the noise outside the office. We're going to wrap this up as quick as we can. Great moment. Duncan starts to cry, tears of happiness, and they leave, going their separate journeys, and we get to the entrance of Subternia at the end of the episode, and there's like this crouched down skeleton figure at the doorway of it, and Evelyn uses the head of the Havoc staff. There's no head in this thing. Puts the Havoc staff on there and places the skull of the skeleton, and that opens the entrance to Subternia, and the heroes enter, but Evelyn, having a real personal connection to the Havoc staff head, takes it back off before she enters, and the door closes behind them. That's where we clock out of this episode. Brilliant. Really did enjoy this. As I did say, very emotional episode for me. So if something does happen to poor Orko by the end of this 5-part run, I'm going to be absolutely devastated, because one of the reviews that I did hear, well, not so much a review, but somebody had dropped something that there's a few things that happen in this episode that are solely designed to annoy and make the core fan angry. So there's one of the main characters is going to go out at the end of the 5-episode run, and I think it's going to be Orko. I'm not sure, but there was a point in this episode too where Duncan was going to drop the secret about the sorceress being Tila's mother, but Evelyn got involved there. So this has happened a couple of times in the last 2 episodes, where this secret that's been held back for some weird reason. I don't know, it was very early in the run of the original cartoon, but again, there's a lot of stuff on here for the new viewer as well. But that's where we're going to leave it at, because this noise is starting to annoy my happiness. So I'm going to finish this review, and we'll get back to another one later on today.